tiptoe steps in everyday parts of life that also happen in the gym, which can still are naturally transferable. So you'll find that in general, you'll just become a more relaxed, more relaxed person because you're more confident in yourself. So that's my aspect of how it helped me anyway with the bodybuilding side.
I'm a motherfucking beast. I'm a motherfucking beast. I'm a motherfucking beast.
What's up, podcast? We got Joe Cramond on this episode. He has dedicated his life to the extreme sport of competitive bodybuilding, and this guy's accomplishments include winning a second place title in the 2015 British NABBA bodybuilding finals, also placing in the top 6 and winning 3 consecutive first place titles in regional British titles. As an entrepreneur, Joe works with business founders and corporate leaders, applying lessons learned in the world of peak performance to business outcomes, and he works directly with ambitious brands and leads companies up to over €1 billion in turnover, helping to increase market share in the most capital efficient way. Joe, welcome to the show. Thank you so very much for your time. How you doing?
Thank you, Carl. Much appreciated. No, I really appreciate you taking the time to introduce me to your audience. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to this conversation. It'll be great.
Absolutely. So you're gonna come back to the stage this year, is what I saw on your Instagram recently, right?
I hope so. Yeah, I'm kind of prepping. So I'm sorry to say 39 in February. So I'm kind of hitting that the 40 mark of like over 40. So potentially I'm going to do an over 40 show, but I won't necessarily compete in the same federation because NABBA, which is the National Amateur Bodybuilding Association, was the federation I stuck with through loyalty. And I kind of now are looking at other federations and thinking the sponsorship, the prize money, the promotional side is a little bit more advantageous. So I'm thinking, you know what, I'm going to try maybe explore some other federations and do an over 40s. But I've been out the game competitive wise now for a number of years, so I'm really going to have to get my goals set, get myself back into a structured routine to get that size back on and ready to trim down for the next show.
Absolutely. What federations would you be looking at, if you don't mind me asking? Because a lot of the questions, one of the first questions we get from everybody, being bodybuilding coaches ourselves, is what federations should I even be looking at? You know, like I'm natural or I'm non-natural, or I'm looking to just be in the best shape of my life and check something off of my bucket list, or you know what, I want to be an IFBB pro. Like these are the kind of questions that we get. So I'm curious, what federations are you experienced with in the past?
I would say UKFBB would be one that I would look at. PCA is another one, and Two Bros is another good federation as well. But there's a fairly few new ones that I'm going to explore nearer the time, and sort of engage it from there. Really, just sort of look at the competition, look at sort of where they're at and where they're going and how they look after their athletes. Because I think that's really important when you compete, is that you've got a team behind you. You're not just left to it. Because some of the years I've competed in the past, I've prepped myself. And I've had to always look to just research for myself to get myself in the right shape and even posing and things like that. Whereas now a lot of feds are actually bringing on people to help you with posing routines, with even down to the tan itself, getting that right. Because I've failed a few times in the past where I've posed and I've had sweat patches and the tan's dripping off me. And, you know, that's an experiment. It used to be in itself, but now there's a couple of really good tanning products that is pretty sort of standard now that people use. And yeah, so that's one of the main aspects of it. I'll sort of explore it more when the time comes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't. Do you typically like to do bigger shows, smaller shows? I've done quite a few of each, and I personally kind of prefer the bigger ones. They seem to be a lot more smoothly run. If you're going to win and earn a title, great. Yeah, the big ones make a lot of sense because that's usually the ones that qualify you for the larger shows. But I'm just curious, like for you, as someone that is an athlete and that wants to have an enjoyable experience, what's your experience based on the size of the shows?
Yeah, I would say the regional shows are a little bit more obviously local based. So you've got a lot more sometimes support for somebody who comes from that area, which can be a bit demoralizing if you've got a huge crowd cheering for somebody who, just because they're a local guy and you've turned up from maybe an outside town or a city and they don't quite know who you are. So there can be a little bit of that psychologically. You've got to get through that barrier. But I obviously with the regional, we've got to qualify to then go on to the nationals. So starting out again after not competing for since 2017, I would have to start at a regional level to then qualify in the top 3 for that, to then get qualified for the national, the next national show. So it's a sort of stepping stone process, really. So yeah,
awesome. Okay. What I really respect and admire about you, Joe, is how you've been able to take bodybuilding and turn it into a business and turn it into a really powerful message. When people ask questions like, well, why would I ever do a show, or what can you do with bodybuilding? How far can you go with it? Because it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out real quick that there's not a lot of money in this sport as far as just competing to earn a trophy, and things outside of sponsorships. But in terms of coaching and in terms of business, there's lots of opportunities out there. So would you be able to share a little bit about what your content is and what it is that you specialize in?
Yeah. So when I started out in bodybuilding back in, it was sort of like the early 2000s, I was kind of at a point where social media wasn't a thing. And when I started competing later on down the line, I was told by the judges, I need to be active on Facebook. I need to be active on Instagram and get myself out there to get recognized, because that's one of the aspects that the shows look at is your social profiles. And I was a little bit like, I didn't really want to put myself out there. I'll be honest. I'm still naturally a little bit more introvert. So I don't really want to keep taking selfies and with a tub of protein smiling away and all that sort of cheesy stuff that everyone's now encouraged to do. But I started learning the strategies of social media marketing. And then from that, I was able to help some small local businesses. Barbershop, for example, was one of the first clients I had with social media marketing. And I got them some really good results just by putting some photographs of the before and afters and using the same sort of concept of creativity for my own profiles that I was using for them, just transferring it over. And it just became a little bit more of a business in a sense, is the whole marketing yourself. You're then able to market other people, and you can see gaps in other businesses where they're not leveraging the platforms on social media. They're not looking at Google. They're not looking at a lot of things. And still a lot of business owners are a bit dinosaur, a bit sort of old school. They believe in the more leaflet drop method and things like that. And nowadays, obviously, the world is becoming so digitalized. So every business needs to have a presence online to compete and get above the noise. So that was kind of in the beginning of the early days, promoting myself. It then transitioned into promoting other businesses and then learning sales tactics and strategies, because even with bodybuilding, it's a confidence game. I was very shy and introverted when I first started out, extremely. And through just gaining confidence in the way people approach you differently, because they can see you getting bigger, they can see you getting stronger. And, and it's always going to be the way that people will unfortunately judge you on first impressions. It's a first impression. You don't get a second chance at that. So sometimes if you shake someone's hand with a firm grip and you're looking at him in the eye and they think, wow, this guy looks like he looks after himself. His posture is good. He speaks well, he's confident. And I think with bodybuilding, because of the discipline of it, that within business, especially within the corporate world, it's recognized. And even a CEO or a founder who's maybe not even been to the gym, but they've sort of focused their life on a different strategy in business, but they can respect the fact that someone has got that dedication to wake up in the morning, have a structured diet, go to the gym a certain time. And it's the same sort of level of discipline that you can apply within business. And that's the key that people really should take advantage of. Is I've met quite a few bodybuilders who have become extremely successful businessmen because they don't get distracted. They're focused fully on what they're doing because they're transferring their skills they've learned from lifting weights, measuring what they're doing, and everything's structured into a different part of, an industry, which can make them some money. So what costs you a lot of money can make you a lot of money eventually.
Exactly. Yeah, because competing ain't cheap. That's for damn sure. But,
no.
But I got this huge smile on my face the whole time I was listening there to that last little rant of yours, because you basically just summarized supersetyourlife.com. And that's why we call it Superset Your Life, is because it's a superset. I mean, the gym in and of itself is a superset that you can take into business and that you can take into you can take into your relationships. It makes you better at basically everything, because I was just talking with one of my clients today about cutting out the BS. That's why we like the carnivore diet, is because it's an elimination diet, but you're really just eliminating everything that's not necessary and only eating what is necessary, and you can live on it and you can thrive on it, right? But so when it comes to eliminating BS and things that don't matter, bodybuilding, when you get to that last month, that last 2 months right before the show, you have to get very, very strategic about everything that you're cutting out of your life, and what really matters, what relationships are the most important. I need this amount of sleep. I can only do so much in a day. Those last few weeks, and then the few weeks coming after the show. So to your point, it's taxing on your body, and it puts you through it puts your mind and really your soul through a lot. But when you come out of that, now you have a deeper capacity, you have more discipline, you have you have more bandwidth to be able to handle things that maybe a year ago would have bothered you. But now, after everything you went through, going through this last show, and who you became through the process, that's what makes you a better business person. That's what makes you better at everything else you do in life. And so what you just described, I think, was it's basically our mission statement, but using more intelligent words.
Yeah, thank you. Well, yeah, I mean, progress demands sacrifice, right? That's the way I look at it. You know, you've got to sacrifice a lot in life to get what you want. And some people find a happy medium. I mean, I've made some mistakes with the bodybuilding where it is a very selfish sport. It has cost me some relationships. Yep. At the time, I didn't realize that, but you know, you focus so much on yourself, it can cause insecurities with your partner. So you've got to look at it,
and you can go crazy personally too. It's just
oh yeah, exactly.
It's too much focus on yourself. It's not healthy.
Exactly. No, that's right. But yeah, like I was saying, you know, it kind of, I think in business, the same with in life in general, you need to step out of your comfort zone. And I think with bodybuilding, especially if you're looking at competing, it's a big thing to stand on stage with a tiny little pair of trunks on, tanned up, exposing yourself at virtually every inch of your body to a crowd, you know, and
wearing a banana hammock, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And you kind of you're in a position where you're being judged as well, and that's another important thing, is that you're setting yourself up for being judged by a panel. So they are judging you on your physique, on the way that you move, the way that you conduct yourself. So you're putting a lot of pressure on yourself. But at the end of that, the results are obviously winning the show is fantastic, but it's also the confidence of knowing, yes, I've done that. I've actually been on that stage, and I've done something that only a tiny % of the population would even entertain doing. Even if they wanted to do it, they just unfortunately haven't got the will or the courage to necessarily push themselves to do that. So I think anyone who's aspiring to be a bodybuilder, don't give up on it. I always say, you know, just even if you don't win your first show, just keep going, keep doing it, because it's the experience that molds you as a person. It's the experience that you can then take on into other aspects of life, and it gives you that confidence. So
yeah, I wish I was nearby, man. I would cover your microphone in water, because it's gonna like burst into flames any second right now.
Exactly.
No, you said, yeah, no, you said it wonderfully, because it's Dorian, you remind me of Dorian Yates. I mean, for obvious reasons, because you're from the same area, but I'm from the United States, so I assume you're from this same area. It's probably all the same. But he was always a big advocate of having to of your style of training, of what you just described. And so anyway, just wanted to thank you a lot.
Hardcore. Dorian Yates. Yeah, he came from Birmingham, so he was in the middle of the country. I'm in the southwest, but I lived in Stratford upon Avon, which is an area in the middle of the UK as well. So I'm very familiar of how Dorian trained. He was an interesting guy, because his tactic was to bury himself away in his gym, in Temple Gym in Birmingham, which was like a dirty, horrible, you know, a Gold's Gym in America, which was all flash, and everyone was, you know, looking at themselves, everyone's tanned up. It was very stylized. But in the gym he was in, the machines were just about holding themselves together, and he had this huge guy as friend that was screaming at him every single set to push him to the limit. He had no distractions whatsoever, and he kept himself very quiet and reserved. And then when he came out on stage, people were like, this guy, we've not even really heard much about what he's been up to for the last year. And he just stomp out made of granite. His muscles were like another level. And that's another thing I was going to discuss as well, is with bodybuilding. I don't know what your views are on this one, Colt, but with bodybuilding now, it's got to a point where I think the conditioning is not necessarily as dense and as grainy as it used to be in general, compared to the 90s bodybuilders that were maybe pushing themselves that little bit further mentally, and even putting up with the pain of doing those drop sets, those supersets, and really hammering their body until they could just about crawl out of the gym. I don't know whether nowadays that kind of approach is not as popular, because I can see the difference between the Olympia bodybuilders of today and the ones of the 90s and the early 2000s. And it's a common sort of debate online at the moment of, some of the conditioning in certain parts of the body and just the overall hardness is not looking the same as it used to, even though they've got the mass, but
Okay. So just to make sure I understand where you're coming from correctly, is that are you suggesting that in general the athletes aren't training as hard today, and so they do have the mass, but there's not that kind of density, whereas that older style of training like Dorian Yates was doing, that's what gave him more of a rock hard, more of that thicker muscle build, like Arnold describes in his book?
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, it's a difficult one because it's not for me to really say that that's definite. It's just an interesting idea of looking at the differances.
Yeah, you know what? And I'm really glad that you brought that up, because so much of bodybuilding is anecdotal. You just can't prove it by science for one, because I mean, every bodybuilder's nutrition list and supplement list is like a mile long, and then extracurricular supplement list that don't want to talk about on the air or whatever. But
yeah,
there's a lot of that stuff in bodybuilding. Obviously, I mean, nobody's not too naive to not realize that. But I've noticed that what I've done lately is actually reduce my workouts by about 50%. So my workouts are about half the amount of time. This is inspired by listening to his interview with Joe Rogan. And I'm actually doing quite a bit of extra cardio because I'm an endomorph. And my lifestyle, it's conducive to my lifestyle. And so I like doing cardio, but the workouts in and of themselves are actually much shorter. And pretty much all of those sets are either until failure, or it's a good 45 to 60 seconds of work where that muscle is not getting a break. And that's different than doing 8 sets of 10. They're doing 5 sets of 10 on this, and then 5 sets of 10 on that, and then 5 sets of 10 on that. That gets old.
Exactly. No, that's right. And obviously back in those days, people didn't have mobile phones to constantly take selfies and be distracted between sets, which you see in so many gyms now. And that's one of my biggest gripes when I go into a gym, is just seeing the guys and girls, and they're on their phones in between sets, and they don't realize that every second counts. The longer you spend, relaxing and just taking your time scrolling through Instagram or editing a photo or something while you're meant to be training, is a big distraction. I think obviously mobile phones have been the biggest distraction in our lives at the moment anyway, but when it comes to the gym, I always think just switch it off, or just put it in your locker and just do what you need to do, and then come out and just make sure you really worked hard. Just imagine if like you're an employee and you've been paid to be there and you have to do that job before you leave, you've got to finish what you're doing. Otherwise you've got it, at the end of the week you get sacked. It's that mentality of a paradigm shift of thinking, no, I'm in here for a reason. I'm working. I'm not here to enjoy myself. This is work. And that's the kind of way you got to look at it. I think it helps.
Yeah. And I love that you brought that up, because I do the exact same thing too. I mean, I'm a busy business person, right? I own a couple of businesses, and so like my phone is always blowing up. And if I can get my unread text messages to like under 30, I mean, that's usually a good day. So I'll set it down while I'm working out, and it's off, and I do not look at it. And then but I have it on for Taylor only, so my wife will let me know if there's like a family emergency or whatever, right?
Of course. Yeah.
And then after that is the time where I do low intensity cardio for as long as it takes to get through all my phone notifications, basically. But yeah, but I like that analogy that you're using though. Like you should treat it like your job. You should treat your workout like your job, because in a sense, it kind of is your job, because how well you do in your workout is going to set the tone for the rest of your day. You got to get your mind right. You got to get your workout right first. And then whatever it is that you do after that is going to be 10 times easier, because you superset your life. And just like what you were talking about, it makes you a better business person. So
yeah, exactly. And you can relax. Your mind can relax. If you've had the best workout you could possibly have, even though physically you'll feel it for maybe an hour afterwards, you'll feel a little bit more fatigued, but you can relax in thinking, I've actually made that attempt. I've pushed myself to that limit. I can now do what I need to do without having to be annoyed at myself that I've done half an exercise routine, or I put 70%, 80% into it when I could have put 100% or 95. It's that mental aspect. It does make a big difference. Just getting yourself out of that comfort zone for, like you said, 45 minutes, that's all you need.
Yeah.
And just being totally laser focused, so
yeah. I mean, like if you do 25 working sets, and that could be 5 sets of that could be 10 sets of a back exercise, 10 sets of a tricep exercise, and then 5 sets of a rear delt exercise, right? Like that's a good back and bicep workout. And so if you give every single one of those 25 sets the attention that they deserve, and you can still work out after that, then you probably didn't train them hard enough.
Exactly.
Like why are you wasting your time any further? So
exactly.
Anyway. And then on the Dorian Yates topic earlier, I'm sorry, I was going somewhere with that, and I forgot where I was going with it, but I just wanted to touch back earlier on competing as a pro and to become a pro versus competing for the experience and to do it to check it off of your bucket list, or to do it to see how far you can push yourself, or to do it because, you know what, I think that this is just kind of what I need to do in life right now, is focus on something and take my mind off of, God forbid, a divorce or a traumatic experience. Bodybuilding can be very therapeutic in that way. And so would you Dorian Yates was he would always say that not everybody can be competitive genetically. Like, let's just be honest, it's not possible. I'm running a marathon this year, but I know I'm not going to win, and I know I'm not going to be competitive. Like, my goal is just to cross the finish line alive, right? and not lose all my muscle mass. That's the goal.
Right.
But not everybody's genetically built to be the most competitive bodybuilder either, too. But would you agree that anybody can get into the best shape of their life and look absolutely amazing and look great on stage, no matter what their genetics are?
Yes, for themselves. Yeah. I mean, again, like you said, the difference between somebody who wins a show and somebody that places because of genetics, I don't know what the percentage would be, but even so, if you were to focus and dedicate your life for 2 or 3 years to eating the right foods and training hard and studying the right supplementation you need to take and getting the right amount of rest, you would look incredible on stage. You'd be really cut, as long as you made sure that you worked every muscle group as it was, that you didn't leave any areas out. Like, don't skip leg day, for example. One of the biggest things I see with most people is they don't like training legs, but they don't get that it's part of an overall package. And also, as we know, training legs will help increase testosterone with squats and all the rest of it. So
yeah, I hope all my men's physique guys are listening to this. Come on, just because
I know. I see the board short stuff. Don't get me wrong. A lot of the guys who are in men's physique have actually got good legs. They just keep them covered up with board shorts. I don't understand it, but I mean, I know the category is what it is. But yeah, it's an interesting one. If I need to get shorts for the summer, I always like to watch a men's physique show just to sort of get an idea of like the fashion trends that are going on at the moment. But yeah, no, it's. But going back to what you were saying about overcoming adversity, and I mean, I've been through a lot in my life, and it's massive. Yeah. If I didn't get into bodybuilding, I didn't have the gym to go to as my sort of just an escape, really. Then it would.
From sorry to interrupt. What I understand is that your background is coming into the gym having some insecurity and a lack of confidence, and use the gym as a way to be able to overcome that, right?
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, and where I grew up, was very small little village out in the middle of nowhere. I didn't have much of a social life as a kid, and I just had just from issues with parents and different things that went on. I kind of had a few issues. I couldn't really hold a conversation. I was very nervous and shy. I couldn't even eat in front of people. Wow. It was very odd. Anxiety, just real sweating a lot, and nervousness. So it got rid of that problem, but it took.
What's crazy is I can relate to all that. Everything that you just described. That's something that having control over my workouts and having control over what I eat every day for years and years and years. It doesn't happen overnight. It's helped me to cope with those kind of insecurities. And so yeah, I'm sorry, continue. No,
exactly. And also with obviously the self-confidence thing, with how your body shape is changing and how you're improving, and the reactions, like I've said before, of how people interact with you differently, the kind of respect that you get from looking and acting a certain way gives you self-confidence, which improves the nerves, makes you more relaxed. And I just think, obviously, as we know with weightlifting, it increases serotonin. It's so good for your mental health to actually exercise every day rather than sitting around dwelling on stuff. And when you start reading books on bodybuilding as well from the experts, and when you start looking into the psychology of it, just that ability to be able to overcome an obstacle of thinking, right, I'm going to get to 140k bench press, for example. That's my aim, that's my goal. How am I going to do this? I'm going to force myself to do it. And it works the same in every other aspect of life, of thinking, well, if I go to I don't know, a restaurant and I'm going to eat and I'm going to have a family meal, am I going to be relaxed enough to be able to not feel sick because I've suffered from nerves? And again, it's those tiptoe steps in everyday parts of life that also happen in the gym, which are naturally transferable. So you'll find that in general, you'll just become a more relaxed person because you're more confident in yourself. So that's my aspect of how it helped me anyway with the bodybuilding side of things.
Hey everyone, Coach Taylor Milton here. Welcome to Skullbellz TV, the official YouTube channel of SupersetYourLife.com, where you're going to discover a weekly upload of quick and easy to follow workout tutorials featuring Coach Colt, myself, or one of our athletes to keep your workouts fun, practical, and effective. Our family's latest keto carnivore recipes that fuel Colt's competitions and keep myself and our kiddos strong and healthy. Video uploads of the SupersetYourLife.com podcast, now over 100 episodes. Your weekly dose of entertainment, education, and inspiration to fuel your life inside and beyond the gym, and much more. Last thing before we get into the video, we're asking a big favor from you. This has been working beautifully, so if you would please think of someone you care about that would benefit from this video, go ahead and smash that like button, click the share button, and text this video to them. That would mean the world to us. And while you're at it, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss more exciting content from Skullbellz TV, because our team has lots of meat and lots of muscle coming your way, and I promise you won't want to miss it. When you hit the subscribe button, you'll see a bell icon pop up. You want to click that too so you're notified every time we release a new video. Thank you so much for the support. It means the world to us. Every like, share, and subscription helps our channel grow and supports our family's hard work. So thank you so much for doing your part too. That's all we ask. God bless you, and please enjoy this video.
Are you a fan of Wim Hof?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I figured so. Something I've been learning a lot from him lately is starting the day off with some kind of pain or making yourself uncomfortable in some sort of way. And so starting the day off for me with like an ice shower, and then going for a run outside where it's not super cold, it's not freezing here, but like it's chilly, it's uncomfortably cold. And so it does release a lot of real very powerful endorphins, though, and very powerful brain chemicals, dopamine, serotonin, a lot of the ones that you were listing off, and then then personally I like to get my workout in right after that. And then, like you said, it's the workout and building muscles and burning fat and manipulating your body composition. That's all the goal. That's all what you're physically doing. But I mean, really the real prize and what you really get out of it is what it does to your brain. That's where the magic really happens. And then you set up for success.
Definitely. Yeah. And it's very easy for people to wake up in the morning, roll over, check their phone, and stay in the warm and think, you know what, but if you make that conscious effort to get up and get in that shower, it took me, when I first started doing it, I struggled, I was like, this is horrible. But it's then when you actually start doing it more regularly, it's so refreshing as well. You get out that cold shower and you're just like, yeah, you're shivering, but you're so awake. It just makes you feel so wired and full of energy without having to have a coffee. I've kind of substituted the cold showers, the coffee for the cold showers.
I've done the same thing. I've done the same thing. Yep.
Yeah. And a friend of mine is actually trying to convince me, because where I live is by a coastal region. So there's, I only have to walk 5 minutes so I can be in the sea. He's trying to convince me to start doing some sea swimming first thing in the morning. So, I've not promised I'm going to try it, but I think because it's very cold.
That's a great idea. That's brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe that'll be the next substitute for the cold showers, is I just, walk straight out the door and jump straight in the sea. That could be an option. That's going to be some serious, because obviously not only are you getting the outdoor elements of the cold, but you're also getting the cold water as well.
Yeah.
So that could be something that I'm going to potentially try next as well, just to set myself up with a bit of a challenge on that one. But But no, but it's been proven as well to help with like you said, the chemical balances with even fat burning. Very, very powerful. So
yeah,
and also
apparently it activates fat cells that like aren't able that are normally, there's brown fat and there's white fat, right? And so it attacks it, so you'll lose fat, like hypothetically speaking, in different areas than you would when you're doing just like normal types of cardio where you're warm.
Yeah, exactly. And also, like you said, Wim Hof, the breathing is a big thing. So obviously, when you do, if you're in a situation where you're stressed, 100% do the breathing exercises, and it's all free on YouTube. You can just, on YouTube, Google him, and it will all come up, like the breathing exercise. I think it's about 5 minutes, and it's that panting and then holding your breath and forcing your air out. And it's an interesting one. It can feel very, very, very different, but at the end of it, you just think, wow, it's like, you just feel so calm and chilled. It makes a massive difference.
Yeah. For those listening, you should get his book. It's Wim Hof's book, page 43, Basic Breathing. Bam. Basic Breathing. Bam. There you go. The name of the chapter is Breathe Motherfucker. That's the name of the chapter.
Yeah, well, and the good thing is, it's these things are free. I mean, in theory, it actually saves you money having a cold shower because you don't have to put the heating on. But it's kind of a benefit. But it's definitely worth giving a go, guys. If you've not tried it, or if you're hesitant, just do it. You'll feel so good.
What separates first and second place in extreme bodybuilding? So we've been talking about just the fact that anybody can do it. Great. That's kind of where I started out. And then one of two things happen. You go, that was awesome. I'm never going to go through that again, though. Let's go back to marathon running or mountain climbing or whatever. And then you got the people like me that are like, that was awesome. All right. Yeah, no, this is for me. I'm bit by the bug now. I want to be an IFBB pro. How long is this going to take? 15 years to put on that kind of muscle? Okay. I guess the clock starts now. Let's go. So what separates first and second place?
First and second place, well, it's a number of factors. I mean, obviously the genetic stuff we've talked about and covered, that I would say that's part of it. On stage, especially in bodybuilding, there is an element of political and politics within some shows. So that's one thing. It's not, I don't think, as bad as it used to be, but obviously if a certain athlete is sponsored by a certain company that some of the judges might be affiliated with, that is also caused problems. Popularity, social media following that helps the show's promotion if that individual wins the show. I think a lot of that stuff is starting to die out now. I think that people are starting to realize that there was some corruption in some of the older bodybuilding competitions, and there's always going to be arguments over certain people that should have won and shouldn't have. But it's all, again, like you said, it's kind of in an individual's perspective, as a collective, it's always going to be that. But
and so it gets really, and sorry to cut you off, and it gets really easy to point the finger at the judges at that point, and then like you got to look at from their point of view. They're like, hey, there's no money in this sport, and like this person's just going to help this business and kind of like help get our name out. So let's give him the benefit of the doubt. And it's not ethical, but they're trying to build a business and trying to get, their brands out too. And I think a lot of times, I'm sure you would agree, is that blaming the judges just comes down to you weren't conditioned enough, or there's something you didn't hold your poses right, and the next guy did, and you're just blaming on somebody else. Because when you work that hard at something and you really want first place and you don't get it, then it can be devastating. It can be really easy to that's when you have an ego check. That's when you either look in the mirror and go, okay, I just got beat by a better athlete and I'm just going to leave it at that, or start blaming other people.
Exactly, that's right. And that's a lot healthier than what you've just initially first said. There is the fact that you can accept the fact that you've lost, but in some ways you haven't necessarily lost. You've just learned, because you've also then got the option to think, right, what did that guy who beat me or lady, what was she doing that was different or better? And how can I learn from her or him? Yeah. What can I do?
Because if you blame, you can't learn. You can only learn.
Oh, exactly.
That's why what does Gary Vaynerchuk say? He likes losing better than winning, because you don't win anything. You don't learn anything when you win. You learn exactly to somebody that's better.
Exactly. And the top people that win at the moment would have lost a lot in the past, and that's the thing that people forget. You don't hear about the people when they're losing. You only hear about them when they're winning. But, everyone loses, everyone fails, and there's nothing wrong with it, because it's all part of growing as a person. It's massively important. And it's a difficult ego for an ego thing and for a confidence thing. It's a difficult one to sort of get your head around that. But as soon as you do understand that there's nothing wrong with coming second place or even third or fourth place, it's just a case of then reevaluating, speaking to people who have already potentially won the competitions and asking their opinion, being acceptance of criticism, constructive criticism, and not taking it personally. If someone says, "Oh, you lost that because your calves were not up to scratch, or your back needs more work, or your hamstrings, whatever it might be," take it on board and then come up with a strategy of like, right, I'm going to work on this area extra hard for next year. So I'm going to focus on doing 2 hamstring sessions a week rather than 1. I'm going to step back from doing too much shoulder workout stuff because my shoulders are overbearing. I don't need to get them any bigger, whatever it might be. And that's the important thing, is if you can handle constructive criticism and just take your ego to one side and your pride and just try and remember that it's important to, gather information from other people that have got expertise and just, and then you'll become an authority. And then one day somebody will come to you and say, "Can you help me? I'm not winning my competitions." And you've got the authority to be able to tell them what you were told by someone else. So it's kind of like a progression in life in general anyway.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I loved what you said about having to adjust how much you're training per body part, because what's the standard rule in bodybuilding? We should all train train every body part twice, right? And it's just so generic. I mean, not everybody, God didn't make everybody the exact same way. Like, we're all created unique and different. We have different tie-ins, we have different strong points and different weak points. Some people have blocky waist like me, and so you got to twist your waist like every time you're on camera. And then there's people that genetically don't have that issue. But yeah, my training right now is more lifestyle structured, and because I'm not competing anytime soon. But these last several competitions that I did, when it was bang, 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 when it was 4 of them right in a row, I was basically like, my weak points are shoulders and quads, right? And so, well, typically not quads, but I lost leg muscle due to an injury coming into that first show. So that's a different story. But basically my rule was chest. Yeah, we don't even need to train it anymore. Shoulders. Okay. It's every single day that they can move, bam, I'm hitting them again. And every single time that I can move my quads, bam, I'm hitting again. They never get a break. And I was able to rebuild the leg mass that I lost between the first show and the last show quite a bit, just because like I literally trained them as much as I trained them twice as much as any other body part. So
were you visualizing them getting bigger? That's another important thing. If you visualize, it makes a massive difference.
Bingo.
Affirmation and visualization is so important, and people underestimate it. They don't realize that if you envision yourself having big legs and you think about it, you don't think my legs are skinny. You think, no, my legs are getting bigger. They're growing. They're getting there. Mentally, your brain will connect with that muscle and it will engage better. It will. Yeah. It's there is science behind it. Not that I'm an expert in that, but people can research it into the affirmation and visualization of everything. You've got to just believe that your legs will grow, as well as obviously training them really, really hard. But then also, like I said before, sacrificing some areas that don't need as much attention, but visualize. And also, I find that flexing helps a lot. I actually flexed a lot, even just in general. Like, you'd sit there at your desk and I'll just be flexing my arms, or if I had a bit of time, I'll be flexing my chest. And what it does is it kind of just trains your muscle to get a better pump. And when you start training, and you pump quicker because the muscle's ready for it. It's like, you've been flexing me. Now you're actually putting some pressure on me. It's like, feed me all the blood, and the blood just pumps in, and it just I think it works really, really well. And Arnold Schwarzenegger was a massive advocate of just constant flexing and tension and posing, whenever you can.
He would say do it at your desk, do it when you do it like every time you go to the bathroom. Tangi Johnson, she's like the biggest well-known posing coach in the area here, and she's always an advocate of every time you go pee, do a vacuum in front of the mirror. Every time you pee, go do after you pee, not before you pee. That would suck. That would hurt.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. If a guy was vacuuming doing the urinals next to me, I think I'd find that a bit off-putting. But
she was talking about it at home, not in public restrooms for sure.
I was gonna say, yeah. Interesting, but yeah, no, exactly. Any chance you get, flex. That's a good sort of slogan. Got to flex.
Let's go. Let's see it. Oh, yours are bigger. Never mind.
You got the vest top on though. You're ready for it.
I know, man. Why do you think it was back and bicep day? But I did like a little bit of a shoulder pump right before coming onto the interview.
Oh, okay, there you go. Now I can see. Good stuff.
Angles and lighting. Everything is angles and lighting.
Oh,
Right?
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
But you do, in all respect to everybody that does any other sport, but even like weightlifting sports, but I just don't think that there's, correct me if I'm wrong, that there's anything that helps you to learn your body and how every muscle works and where everything attaches in the way that bodybuilding does, because you have to see it from every single angle, and the training, the results that you're looking for require it. If you want to have the absolute best physique that you possibly can, that's what it takes. You have to know every single part of your body and how to get a pump here, how to get a pump here. My lower lats, my lower lats aren't coming in like they should. Fuck, how do I hit my lower lats? I don't know. Sometimes it takes a trainer, it takes a buddy, or someone that's just been bodybuilding for 10 years to like literally touch you in the back where you're supposed to feel that lift, because what works for one person from one angle may not work from somebody else from the same angle. And
exactly,
God just made everybody differently.
No, exactly. No, you're right. Activating certain muscles that generally people wouldn't use in day-to-day life, like the rear delts, for example. How many people ever in your normal day-to-day life do those muscles ever get activated?
Never. And that's why they're always underdeveloped.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. And obviously with posture as well, like, working up here, pulling the rope to the face, and all that sort of stuff upright will help with, your postural sort of, especially if you've got a seated job or you do a lot of driving, it makes a huge difference. So yeah, it's understanding how the body works. And obviously I've seen some of your stuff, Cole, and I know that you've got it down to a T, that you really understand every muscle group. So yeah, it's really important when you're training somebody, especially, that make sure that they have got the right understanding of how to grip the bar, how to grip the rope, and different techniques. And as you say, certain things work for certain people. I've trained with all different types of body types and body shapes. And it's interesting when you do have that experience, you think, oh, well, that worked for that person, but they didn't seem to get much of a pump, or didn't feel it much from doing the same exercise, just because of their shape is different. It's and they're used to doing different things. But yeah, it's worth it. Experimentation is important, and obviously always research as much as you can, and try and copy what other people do. And as long as they're not doing something that could cause them injury, and just experimenting with it, and you'll find your way, and eventually you'll get there. So
picking up off of what you just said about injuries at the end, I'm glad that you brought that up. Quick question for you on risk versus reward. Are there ever, because I do this all the time, there's a lot of exercises that I do where I know it's bad for me, and I know it's not like the healthiest way to do the exercise, but there's just nothing else that builds my shoulder better than this particular exercise. And that's behind the neck presses, right? Every chiropractor will tell you not to do it. Whenever I have somebody start doing it, they start getting joint pain and back issues, and things like leg extensions for the legs, when you're locking out really hard and pointing your toes inward to get to hit that lateral head. It is terrible for your knees, but it's really good at developing the outside of your quads. Do you have exercises like that you do that is it's definitely going to cost me some pain, and I'm going to have to pay for this, but I really want to get first place?
Yeah, there's a few. Yeah, I mean, off the top of my head, I can't necessarily think of too many, because I've always been quite cautious of injury, because I've always rather to do, instead of
That's why you're 39 and still doing it. I got to watch myself.
Yeah, it's just being patient with it. I mean, it's like, I mean, look at, for example, with Ronnie Coleman and Jay Cutler, look at the difference. Ronnie Coleman is got so many, but he was lifting such heavy weights, and the guy was phenomenal. Like, he went out on stage and he was just an absolute mass monster. However, now, is he be paying the price for ridiculously heavy weights that maybe if he trained a bit differently, maybe, I don't know whether he would have got the same physical results, but he might not have had, because Jay Cutler came out and he did beat him, and Jay Cutler still trains hard and he still looks good, and luckily he survived quite a lot of injury. He doesn't really have the issues that Ronnie Coleman's got. So that's an interesting one to look at and think, well, is it really worth me forcing my body to do something that doesn't feel comfortable, and rather than going a little bit lighter and just doing a few more reps and just spending a bit more time?
But you look at the passion that Ronnie has too, because I agree with everything you're saying. And that just one thing I wanted to add to that was, you look at the passion that Ronnie Coleman has, and you almost wonder if maybe he wouldn't be who he is if he didn't put his body through all that. You know what I mean? It's
I know
like,
what you mean. Yeah.
But like, yeah, he can barely walk, but I mean, those are battle wounds though, and so I mean, he wears them with pride in a sense.
Oh, I mean, his attitude's fantastic. Like, it doesn't seem to affect him, but I just think for your listeners it's kind of just a bit of advice. Just be careful not to necessarily always force yourself to do that 1 rep max if you don't need to, just to try and prove something to yourself.
Oh yeah.
When you could end up really causing yourself some damage. It depends on what you're doing it for. If you're doing it for powerlifting, it's a different style of training, as we know. But for bodybuilding, you don't necessarily need to be lifting, massive weights to get big muscles. It's more about, in my opinion, it's more about the food. It's more about the rest as well, and tearing those muscle fibers through high intensity than necessarily forcing, the 1, 2, 3 rep maxes. It can be done, but just be careful with it. Like, make sure you're not.
Yeah. And as someone that's 9 years ahead of this game than I am, I know that everything you just said is something that I really need to hear. So I appreciate it. And thank you for that.
That's all right.
Yeah. I mean, I think we all get to that point to where we're like, okay, ego and being the best that I can. And then how much am I sacrificing? It's all about risk and reward. And I think that's just something that, nobody can make that decision for you. Like, you really need to make it for yourself. And so it's something that, especially whenever I have an expert, like get the opportunity to have an expert like you on our show. It's, that's something that I really like, that's a perspective that I really like to hear, especially from someone that's a little bit older than me, because, I'm still trying, because I have to make that decision every day. Like, okay, how hard do I push at this? How hard do I push my business? How hard do I overextend myself in life in general? And then when do I need to take a step back, have a bigger perspective, and look at the entire forest and go, okay, I didn't spend enough time with my family today, or I didn't spend enough time with my dog today. I didn't, keeping everything in perspective. And so I just really appreciate your perspective. Thank you for that.
Yeah, no, that's all right. Well, health is wealth at the end of the day as well. You've got to look after your health of this. And that was one of the reasons why I stopped competing, because I was concerned about the health aspects of what I was doing to my body.
Yeah.
I could really feel it. And interestingly, while I was competing, people said I looked older than I do now. And this was back in 2017, because my body was under so much stress. People could see it around my eyes, my skin. I was very, very tired. I was keeping myself awake with huge amounts of stimulants, caffeine, and supplements and things like that, which isn't good. So there is definitely a balance that you need in life. It's really, really important. And obviously, like I said before, if you are, I think people should transition what they've learned from the years of bodybuilding and fitness and exercise into the business world, or into a career, or even into their families, even into, structuring their home life in a positive way, whatever it might be. You sort of learn from that, but at least it's having that balance, because if you just focused all of your life on yourself, you're going to be a very lonely person that could be full of injuries. And yeah, there's a few trophies on the shelf, but what have you really got to show for it? And that's where you got to sort of like have that happy medium. So I don't think people should beat themselves up if they're not winning every show they go to, or they're not there, because it does have patience. It's so important. The patience is the key to this. Yes. It really is. Longevity.
And then even going back to the judges too, it's like there's judges that kind of prefer one thing, and there's judges that kind of prefer another thing. And how do you know? And maybe you came in looking your best at one show, but you had and you didn't place as well as you wanted to, but maybe they were just they just happened to be looking more for mass at that show instead of conditioning. Whereas whereas the judges 6 months later are going to be, kind of focusing on conditioning or something else. And so I think you got to give yourself enough chances, but also know when to cool it and go, okay, long term, we need to focus on the big picture, and doing too many shows for too long is not healthy for anybody. I don't care how good your genetics are.
No, exactly. And like, you're a very good example of how you've managed to use what you're doing in bodybuilding as well to do this podcast and have your own business and do personal training and help other people. And that's also very valuable. So not only are people, if they're going to the gym regularly and they're learning this stuff, they're actually learning a trade in a sense that they can then
100%.
pass on and so they're becoming a professional, even if they don't necessarily win the shows that they're competing in. That portfolio of having that experience to be able to help so many other people with, the mental health aspect, the nutritional aspect, the physical exercise, even being able to support the elderly with mobility. There is so many different avenues to take this expertise that you're accumulating from being a bodybuilder. It's really, really important that people understand that you're not just somebody who goes to the gym who might be, a doorman's day off hobby sort of thing, because that's what it used to be considered to be in the UK. It was frowned upon a long time ago, bodybuilding. Now it's becoming recognized as being a real skill to be able to have that knowledge. So that's one thing that people should take away from it as well.
Absolutely. You're also very well known for having peak performance mindset and having peak performance habits. How does that translate into business success, but more specifically between the 1% and 2%? Just like what we were talking about before, what separates the top 1% and 2% in the area of business, like what you were just describing?
The two words I would use is probably discipline and dedication. So it's the same. It's having that discipline in business. So structure, depending on what the business is, just having that routine and not being distracted. And also, again, there's many aspects from it. It's more about how you conduct yourself and how you can foresee and be patient with your results as well, and look to have goal setting within your tasks, the same as you would in the gym, the same as you would in bodybuilding, starting off with a structured progression ladder of what you're doing within a business, which a lot of people haven't necessarily got. They jump from one thing to another, or they get distracted. And, so it's kind of like helping entrepreneurs and business owners with that structure of realizing, look, don't think too far ahead. Let's focus on the one thing. Let's perfect that one thing and then move on to the next thing, rather than getting ourselves distracted with too many things within the business realm. So that's the kind of way I can summarize it without being too specific to a certain industry. So I've kind of gone into businesses and I've helped to consult and speak to owners about stuff like that.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt. Our business coaches would always describe it as being, is having shiny object syndrome.
Yes.
and having to identify whether this is a really good idea that's really worth my time and dropping everything that I'm doing and capitalizing on this opportunity that might slip through my fingers, or is it just another shiny object, and is that idea really going to go anywhere? And sometimes you don't know until you try.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's also that aspect of taking risks as well, because some people are very opposed to taking risks, but I am a risk taker. We have to be. If we're going to do what we do to our bodies to achieve that, then you're taking a risk. You're taking a risk with your health, and you're sacrificing a lot. So the same thing applies within the business world as well. Because if you don't take those risks, it's
and you would know, and that's another one of the things I really respect about you, is that how open you are about your business failures. I can't remember what podcast it was that I was listening to of yours, but you listed off a number of business failures, and I was just wondering if you might be open to sharing what some of those were on our show and how you overcame those.
Well, with my social media marketing agency, I kind of the problem I had is I was offering everything to everybody. I was trying to prove myself that I could be this all-in-one business solution. And, I outsourced some of the work. I didn't really have a lot of experience at the time of outsourcing and how to manage other people, because another thing as well that's interesting is when you've got high expectations of yourself, you kind of hope that other people would perform in the same way. You kind of expect, because of how you'd behave or how you would be, that other people are naturally going to be the same, which they're not,
Right.
and not more often than not, you need to keep your expectations a lot lower. Because when you've got high expectations, it can be very frustrating when someone's not delivering on what you're expecting them to. So that was one of the biggest lessons for me, is that just because I'm the way I am, that doesn't mean another person's going to be like that. And it's kind of that understanding, and it does take time and it takes a lot of patience. But that was probably, to summarize one of the issues I had, really, is not everyone's going to think the same as you, so
Yeah.
it's certain things.
Absolutely. A book that really helped me on that, just to piggyback what you were talking off of, was Your Personality Tree by Florence Littauer. And so it lists out, and I'll put a link to that in the show notes, but it's called Your Personality Tree by Florence Littauer. And and she goes into very, very deep detail describing 4 different personality types. There's choleric, there's melancholy, there's phlegmatic, and there's there's sanguine. I'm a melancholy, so we're very detail oriented. Can be very emotional, particularly if things don't go the way that we think that they should go. Cholerics are very goal oriented, very, 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 very driven and very focused. And so I have a little bit of that too. And then there's phlegmatic, which is the more laid back, like they just get along with everybody. And then there's the sanguine, which are kind of your natural extroverts, which I'm actually not either. And I know that you're not. So the fact that we're having this conversation is kind of a miracle, maybe. but when you understand that, like, okay, you fit into probably one or two of those categories to some degree, that you realize that, you know, just because somebody else thinks one way and I think this way, it doesn't mean that that one of us is right and one of us is wrong. It's just we're literally wired differently and think differently and operate differently. So
the personality types. That's interesting.
So the better you understand that and have awareness of who you are and how somebody else maybe processes things differently, it can be really helpful on making bridges and making connections with people that maybe you weren't able to relate to before. So anyway,
exactly. That's really interesting. Yeah, definitely. And I think as well, going back to what you were saying about the failures, I think as well, because of the bodybuilding being such a selfish, in some ways it has to be, you become very reliant on self. So you don't tend to ask for help much, in my opinion. I didn't ask for much help with what I was doing in the business because I thought, you know what, I can handle this. I can do it myself. It's fine. I've done this in the bodybuilding thing. I was in control, and it's kind of like a bit of a control thing maybe as well. But you've got to accept that you just sometimes have to let go and let other people, you know, offer their help and ask for their help, and don't be ashamed to say, look, I don't know how to do this. Can you really help me out? And in the beginning, now I've not got a problem with that. I know it's something that I needed to learn back in the early days of getting into business and into marketing as well. Because I was trying to offer everything to everyone and be this all-in-one solution. It doesn't work. So it's always better to perfect one thing and then move on to something else. And then also just gather other people's expertise as well. So yeah, shiny objects is definitely a thing.
Yeah. So when you first, because that's kind of where we are too. I mean, you're just a lot further along at this game than I am, and you've really got this figured out. But yeah, we're just, my wife and I are just everything to everybody at this point. You know, we're both working 12, 13-hour days. Especially. No,
you're doing a great job. I've seen what you do online. It's great. It really is. So
yeah, thanks. Well, the day that we can hire our first employee is going to be a big breath of fresh air for both of us. But right now it's just us doing everything. So yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, it's because I was going to ask you actually, what's your goals? What are your goals for this year?
Oh, thanks a lot. Yeah. So normally it would be a bodybuilding show. And so having just done 4 of them in a row, it's like, okay, when's the next one? When's the next one? When's the next one? So I got to get that mentality out of my head right now. But our goals are more business focused and more family focused. My number one focus right now is to spend as much time with my son as I possibly can. There's a little bit of learning challenges that we're kind of trying to work through right now. And so school's been great. It's been helpful, but we've just been getting better traction the more time that I've been spending with them. And so that would be probably a number one family goal. Number one business goal is to triple our income this year. And so then the following year that would give us enough seed money to be able to continue opening up our first public gym. Right now our gym's private, and so we need basically twice the amount of equipment that we have to be able to have a good sized public gym. And then yeah, so that's more of a 2024 goal, but just reverse engineering. That's what it's going to take to be able to make that happen. As far as athletic goals, I want to be an IFBB pro sometime within the next 7 to 10 years. And so when I get big enough, that's the time to start going, okay, kids are a bit older. Everything's, you know, in our life is a bit more stable to be able to handle me competing again. So great, let's do it. And we're going for it. And so
that's great.
I'm gonna get everything I got, but it's just, you know, it's a selfish sport. It really is. And so I can't justify doing that anytime soon. And I know damn well I'm not going to be competitive enough to reach the ultimate goal. But that pretty much summarizes up everything with the exception of my marathon that I'm running this year. That's just something where I've done so much cardio and I'm like basically in the shape to run a half marathon. And you know what they say, if you can run a half marathon, you can run a full marathon. So that'll give me something to keep that competitive edge going, and like have another goal that's somewhere on a near horizon that's not so many years out. I find that very therapeutic, having something very close to look forward to. And then the last thing would be, as a coach, having Taylor just do her absolute best and have this be the most amazing contest prep experience she ever has. She just announced a couple episodes ago on our show that my wife, that she's doing her first show this year, so she's going to do the wellness category.
Oh, that'd be awesome. That sounds really good. Well, mate, that to be able to handle a half marathon as well as do a bodybuilding show, I just, for me, that's like marathons and running is something that's like a dirty word to me. I'm not a fan. Like I love watching and stuff, but I can't. I'm terrible at running. It's something that I've always struggled with, is the cardio side.
I'm terrible at running too, but I just love doing it, and it feels really therapeutic.
Yeah, no, that's great though. Really, really good. No, brilliant, good stuff. So yeah, well, as I say, hopefully you'll be able to see me prep for the Over 40 show, and I'll announce on my social media platforms which federations I'm gonna do first, and we'll see where we go from there. And obviously, cool. Just to let your audience know, I've got my own podcast called Find Your Voice.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, where can people go to find you? Where's the best places to go?
So Joe, just put my name in Facebook, so Joe Cramond, CRAM for mother, OND, so just one M, and the same on Instagram as well. If you Google me, there's lots of videos on YouTube and stuff like that of back in the day when I competed, a few sponsorship videos that I had filmed back in the time when I went through a bit of a no hair phase. I shaved it off for a few years, just because I got sick of having to pay for haircuts, to be honest. So I thought I'd just get rid of it. And yeah, so I've got quite a lot of content on there. And the company that
thanks for spelling out your name too, because for those listening, it's one M in the name Cramond, not two M's. So yeah, because we were connected over email before, and so when I was looking and over podcast before, and so when I was looking for your Instagram profile, it was I was able to find it when I spelled it with one M. So when you look at this gentleman on Instagram, one M, you'll find him. He's jacked. That's probably Joe Cramond.
Yeah. No, that'd be great. Thanks. I appreciate that. And yeah, so the company as well that I consult for podcasting, which is one of the reasons why we're talking today, is called Pickle. And I'm the head of business development for that as well. So the plan is to have my own podcast called Find Your Voice, where I'm going to bring on thought leaders from various industries to talk about their business ventures and their stories, their insights, and talk about the challenges they've had. So it's not so much fitness, it's more a general overall mindset and strategy, sort of various amount of people that we're going to have on. So that'll be interesting. And maybe we can reconvene and have another meeting, maybe you and your wife as well, and talk about the trials and tribulations of work-life balance with family, because that's something that I've not got any children. I'd love to have them one day, but
you can. I'd be absolutely honored. Yeah,
because I think that's really important. I think, to be honest, there's a lot of people out there that even just going to the gym is a lot more of a hassle in some respects when they've got young children, and when you have to balance the whole family, work life, fitness world. It really is.
Yeah. On paper, following a meal plan is not rocket science. Following a workout plan is not rocket science. But there's stuff called life. There's weather. There's flat tires. There's cars. There's kids. There's there's obstacles. So. Yeah,
and kids' food as well. That's not something I've experienced, where you're opening up the cupboards and you've got Cheerios or something, and But,
we don't have that stuff, because I'd go crazy if we had that stuff in our house. No, the kids eat what we eat, and they eat healthy.
Oh, that's great. That's brilliant. I think that's something that should be encouraged, definitely, as well. So, but yeah, no, I think it'd be awesome if we can got you two guys on, and we could all have a mutual conversation about stuff like that. And maybe one day I'll have a little one running around on my own. We'll see how it goes. But yeah.
You should get a dog in the meantime. Get an Australian Shepherd.
Yes, no, that's a good idea, actually. Yeah, and I've had a dog in the past, but yeah, no, we'll see. It's having the time, I guess, is at the moment with work and everything else. So it's
right. And speaking of time, I really, really respect yours. So I want to just thank you so much for being on our show. And
not a problem.
And really, I'm very, very appreciative of the fact that you're willing to record later at night, being in the UK. For me to do an 11 o'clock meeting, it's one thing, but for you, You're my hero, man. I'd be too
Yeah.
tired to be on recording at that time. So
No, it's not a problem at all. Not a problem. No worries, Cole. Anytime.
Hey everybody, thanks so much for joining us on this entire episode, and if you liked Joe Cramond, then make sure you subscribe, because after we were done recording, we talked for like another hour, and we were like, yeah, okay, this is when we're gonna get on, this is when I'm getting on your show, this is when you're coming back for round 2. So we just couldn't stop talking, basically, is what I'm getting at. Anyway, thanks again, everybody. Yeah, and if you found this helpful and entertaining, just share it with a friend, okay? That's all we're asking. There's no fees, doesn't cost anything for you to listen to our content, and it's not exactly a moneymaker either. And so the more that everybody shares, it really helps the channel grow. And I just want to thank everybody so much for that. And the last thing is, wanted to give a big client shout out to a returning client, actually. Jenny Ensley from Butte, Montana, had some things to say about her workout plan that she's been starting the year off with, and what her experience has been like. So this is just recording for one of our daily check-ins. Thanks a lot, Jenny. And yeah, everybody, here's Jenny.
Hey guys, thanks for checking in this week. Sorry I've been kind of quiet, I just got off the Stairmaster. I'm a little tired, but I've been loving the new program. I love that I'm not spending that much time at the gym. Like, I feel like these workouts are flying by. I'm pushing myself really hard, which feels great, and I don't feel like I'm having to really do major adjustments to my schedule to make it work. It's been amazing. I love it. Really enjoyable, really just because I have less working sets, so it's really like kind of forcing me to push way harder. Just appreciate you guys, love you guys. I am loving the program. It's amazing. It's been a lot of fun getting back into it, so thank you.
Jenny, you are awesome. Can't wait till we get our second workout in. Looking forward to checking in with you tomorrow. Everybody else, thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next episode.